Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan battle video. So in this video we are going to take a look at the Collection of Epic Battles event. It is a new event that's been added into DBZ Dokkan battle in the worldwide download celebration. So this event requires no stamina. You can take two types of sport items, and if you see here it mentions that in stage 1 characters related to the planet Namek Saga will be there, and also the units take reduced damage from super class enemies. The reward for doing all of the missions is for a new sport item along with some dragon stones, which is really good. So we'll take a look at this event. Obviously I have done one of the challenges, which is for the sworn enemies category, but I didn't really film it so nicely in an introductory tutorial kind of way. So I'm going to rerun it with the full power category, and yeah, we'll just take a look from there. But there's also a category mission for the planet Namek Saga, and if you complete all of these missions you will get the new support memory and around 20 stones, so that's obviously pretty damn good. In terms of this epic collection of battles, basically it looks like a new kind of event, whereby it's kind of like a different SPR. You can basically go into the stage and it warms up. You start with a decently hard enemy, and then you can obviously take them on, and then you can choose from the next battle and then the next battle, and you'll kind of recreate or redo a series of battles that happened in the series, which is pretty interesting. It seems like relatively quite cool. The bosses have a couple little gimmicks and things like that, so we'll take a look. The first enemy is going to be Nail. So Nail is immune to being stunned, immune to sealing, but he can be attack lowered and defense lowered. Nail himself doesn't look too challenging. He wasn't too much of an issue. In terms of my full power team, I've gone with a double movie bosses lead in the form of Int Broly because of all his buffs against Saiyan class enemies. I've gone for double tank Golden Freezers, and then I've gone for a support Golden Freezer with the transforming Golden Freezer, and that's pretty much it. As you can imagine, the best unit for this stage is the new Freezer the new LR full power AGL Freezer. Because he has guaranteed crits against Goku, he makes the last stage really easy. So if you have him, pretty much try and use him as much as you can. Any team that he can be on is pretty much a team that you're going to want him to be on. And yeah, that's really about it. In terms of a strategy here, I basically just try to get the two Brolys. One Broly is going to be off rotation, the other Broly is going to be in rotation, and he's going to be paired up with the Freezer. And then yeah, we're pretty much just going to see how we go from there. But as you guys know, trying to make a team here that can beat the challenge for full power. And yeah, just taking a look, you can choose here between Piccolo and Krillin or Gohan, well, Krillin and Gohan. So the Piccolo fight has two phases, whereas the Gohan and Krillin fight is just these two enemies. Obviously, if you're taking on these two enemies, it is best advised that you make sure that your units either have buffs against multiple enemies, or that you focus down the unit that has type advantage. I think the gimmick here is that Krillin cannot be sealed and Gohan cannot be stunned, but you can stun Krillin and you can seal Gohan. So do with that information what you will. If you can obviously stun and seal them, you can control them, which makes the fight a lot easier. So if your team has some utility, that's really going to help you out there. But you can go for Piccolo if your team has less utility. He is different in that he can't be stunned or sealed. But you'll see here that we can take quite a chunk of damage. These units hit relatively hard. I mean, we don't have an item active, and it was type disadvantage, which is why he took 158k. But it's still relatively quite tough. I'd probably say the second fight here is probably the same difficulty as the original Super Battle Road stages. As you can see there, we can see that Krillin nullifies sealing, Gohan nullifies stunning. But yeah, I would say this second fight here is probably as challenging as the original SBR stages, or maybe the last stage of new Dokkan events, probably, is the best way to describe it. And then, yeah, I think after here it ramps up a little bit again, and then the final fight against Goku slowly ramps up over time as well. So it's quite an interesting event. I wouldn't say it's anywhere remotely as challenging as the Battle of the Gods event, or the Gods of Destruction event, sorry. And it's probably not as challenging as Extreme Super Battle Road or the LG But it's quite interesting because it's kind of like a combination of the two, whereas like SBR and ESBR are kind of like these short, 2 or 3 to 4 turn battles for the most part. These fights tend to last a little bit longer, so it's a bit more endurance based, which is nice because it lets you kind of build things up, and it's a nice little hybrid. It's kind of looks like a little bit of a combo between an IDBH and an ESBR, which is quite fun. It actually is quite a fun little event. It's nice and challenging without being too difficult that new players will struggle to get into it, or other players who don't have as good units will struggle to complete it. So it's like you don't need the new Freezer to complete it, whereas I felt with the Gods of Destruction event you needed the new units to complete them easily. So yeah, it was just interesting from that aspect. We are going to use an item here, just because I want to just be careful about that Cell. He's a little bit dated, but Vegeta is immune to stunning, sealing, and he can't have his attack lowered, so he can pretty much only have his defense lowered. Broly's really going to help us out here for these final 2 battles, because Broly, as you guys know, gains a whole bunch of buffs against Pure Saiyan enemies, so he's really going to start helping us out quite a bit. But Vegeta himself doesn't seem too tough. He only has 1 phase, and there's no real gimmick to him. He hits relatively hard, but he's not something that I would deem to be too big a problem. Obviously I have quite a good team here, so just be careful if you are taking a tech loaded team. Be careful if you're taking a tech loaded team in these last 2 stages anyway. Vegeta is int and the final form of Goku is int, and they can hit you, substantially hard. They can hit you quite hard, so unless your tech units are stacking or have damage reduction or something like that, just be very careful. You can see this friend Broly is eliminating Vegeta, which is always helpful. So that is quite nice from that aspect. We got a really good chunk of damage done in the beginning, and obviously we do have a item active. So you'll see a good old Cell here take a super attack, which is why we had the item active. You'll see he takes quite a fair chunk of damage. I think 90k or 80k. So he does hit decently hard. I mean, Cell got a lot of orbs there. He got 10 orbs. He had decent defense, and yeah, he didn't get hammered, but 80k is a decent amount. I mean, I know we had an item active, but 80k means, before items, Cell would have been taking about 150-ish. So yeah, pretty decent in terms of how hard Vegeta hits. Probably just under, that's probably near the later SBR, not the newest SBR, but like the later SBR. So a decent level that he hits at, nothing too crazy. Obviously my Cell is got a couple dupes in him, so it does help him out, and his easier was still pretty good. So here we go, we've got Goku, who is disables attack reduction, sealing, immunity to being stunned, all that sort of stuff. And he pretty much just remains like that the entire time. So Goku himself is pretty challenging. The main issue you're going to have with Goku is you need to both whittle him down, but also be careful about him transforming too early on before your units have the ability to generate some defense. You'll see Goku hits pretty hard here, 160k on a 100% Broly. Okay, Broly didn't super, which means he would have had a bit more damage reduction afterwards, but still 160k is quite a bit, as you can see. So just be wary that Goku starts out at a decent level. Not that he starts out uber powerful, but he just starts out at a decent level. The biggest threat to me is going to be when he transforms into his Kaioken stage, because we have quite a few int characters and Goku is physical, so you need to be careful about that. Of course, Broly is still going to do a lot of damage with all the additional buffs that he'll get, and we'll save the active skill from Broly for when we really need it. But overall, this team should be more than fine. The Golden Frieza, as long as we stay above the health threshold, shouldn't take too much damage. And we have the Tech Frieza, who will be slowly building up his defense, along with dishing out some decent damage to good old Goku. So that's realistically the team we're going to be going with. I don't anticipate there being too many problems. We may have to pop some items just to be safe. The main reason being this tech cell. And there are decent alternatives to this team. The biggest issue I currently have is just that we don't have, well, I should say I don't have a good full power lead. And I tried to refrain from using the LR Frieza. Not any issues against him. I just think not a lot of people might have him. So trying to refrain from using him as my lead, and just kind of doing like a sworn enemies type of cross team, which could be fairly simple because you can basically just stick every Frieza under the sun, under the sworn enemies category, and you won't have any issues basically from that point onwards. But there's plenty of good alternatives. You've got the Broly. You've got the Broly that leads the full power category. You do have the strength LR Frieza as well, who leads the full power category. Alternatively, you can pretty much take whoever you want. It's just going to depend on the makeup of your team. You could probably go for a Wicked Bloodlines team at some point. You could definitely do a Time Travelers team with the Bojack as well. So there's plenty of options that you can go for. It just depends on what you have in your box. And what you're going to be able to rock out. But I do obviously suggest only using extreme type enemies. Units, because that's going to help you bite through these enemies' damage reduction. So these guys do not take damage from superclass enemies basically. So you're going to have to use an extreme based team. So that's the only real rule of thumb that you need to apply when you are team building for this event. Make sure that all of your units are extreme class. And like I said, try and avoid tech units because they can get really hammered in the final phase. You saw Broly here take 258,000 or so from Goku. It was type disadvantage, but Broly's got damage reduction. Broly has built up his defense. So it's still quite a lot for a unit like Broly to take. It's still pretty rough. Overall though, the event is pretty fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was a lot of fun for me at least. I thought it was quite enjoyable. I like what they've done with allowing you to select a couple different fights. It lets you change things up if you ever want to reattempt it. Doesn't always have to be the same thing. And of course it just makes things a little bit more interesting, so to say. It's not really a bad thing or anything like that if they let you change it up. It's nice. It's really well put together. The difficulty is good. I think the difficulty is quite enjoyable. I think it's really solid. I think it's a good level of difficulty. It's not a super hard event in the notion of the Gods of Destruction, or maybe compared to something like ESBR, but it is still a somewhat challenging event that a lot of players will need to dip into their best teams for, and I think that's always a good excuse for an event. If you feel like you need to invest in a unit or change up a team or do something to achieve a challenge, then I always think the stage is designed well, because that's what makes it enjoyable for me, is team building and building all these different teams, putting everything together and working on units that I definitely need. Pretty interesting whatsoever. But of course you can see the physical Goku here is really giving us some issues. He's really dishing out some really high damage. He's also hitting out int units, to be fair, pulling a bit of a sneaky one on them, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. So you want to be a little bit sparing with your items. You don't want to invest in all of them straight away, because obviously you know, there's still 2 more phases to come. Goku is a 4-phase fight, so you do need to just be a little bit careful. We're hoping that Broly can get enough criticals and attacks, but he doesn't, because he's, this is what happens in Dokkan. They'll do great, and then when you really need them to clutch it out, units will just disappear on you. But yeah, for the most part, obviously, we do manage to dish out some decent damage to Goku. Unfortunately, he super attacks Frieza, which means nothing. So we are fortunate on that aspect. It keeps everything okay for us, and we survive all the damage. If he'd super attacked Cell, we could have possibly died. Possibly, I'm not entirely certain, but there's a chance there. But Frieza's starting to stack now. The int Friezas are stacking. Unfortunately, after the physical stage here, we are fighting a tech and a int type, so we have a lot more control over everything. This is a Spirit Bomb Goku, but I honestly cannot tell if he does a special gimmick Spirit Bomb. It's really difficult to tell, so I actually don't know. But we should be fine here. Our only AGL unit is the Frieza with 90% damage reduction, so we should be more than okay. And we have a lot of int-type units, so we should get through this phase pretty easily. And but obviously that's just one of the benefits of building the team like this. But you really just want to avoid the high damage that's going to come out of the int Goku at the end, basically. But yeah, once you're able to get through the physical Goku, I think for the most part, the damage tapers off for Tech Goku. I don't think he gets massive damage. I don't know, because obviously he's about to hit Broly with an attack, and Broly has, damage reduction, type advantage, and had stacked 3 more attacks on top of his defense, so really not something that's easy to tell how much damage that Spirit Bomb does, at least in this situation exactly. But we'll easily clear through the Tech Goku, which is obviously something that's really going to help us out. Wait, sorry, Goku has 5 phases. I'm forgetting about the Strength Super Saiyan phase as well. So yeah, Goku actually has 5 phases, Goku is a long fight, so it's really going to help you if you bring units that deal extra damage against Saiyans, deal extra damage against superclass types, like our good old Frieza, Tech transforming Frieza now. So yeah, just one of those things that you're going to wish that you would have on your team, because it's really going to help you out. And yeah, it's one of the reasons why bringing super teams is really not advised, because it will just take so long. With the damage reduction they have against superclass enemies, it would just take so long. We're not going to use an item here, just because we're going to see how Cell tanks with a couple orbs. Frieza will be fine. Frieza is sitting with probably around 200, 300 or so defense, so he'll be more than fine, especially after these 2 super attacks. So we're not too concerned about anything. Some nice big damage there by Frieza. Obviously we don't have big bad bosses activated, so Frieza doesn't have his full crazy level of power that you might have seen in one of my other videos recently, but still really damn good, even with just the 3 links I believe he shares with him and the int golden Frieza. So yeah, definitely one of those things. Of course, looks pretty good so far. Obviously Cell took a bit of damage, but we shouldn't have too many issues. We are looking quite fine here, so I don't think we're going to have that many problems at all. Just debating whether to use the active skill there. Felt like it wasn't necessary since we had both golden Friezas on rotation, but yeah, it definitely was crossing my mind. We'll take a look at how much damage Goku does here with the super attack. Obviously Broly's stacked quite a few times. He hasn't supered, which would have helped activate the second portion of his damage reduction. But you can see there we took about 90k, so you can see the damage drop off a little bit. Obviously the type advantage super attacks from the physical unit, we're dealing 158. We are now technically stronger defensively, and we still took 90k from a non-type advantage. So obviously the power has gone up, but it's not the scaling of like, he's not hitting it like LGEGT levels or things like that. But that being said, units with damage reduction, units with defense stacking are obviously going to be good priority units to focus on when you're team building, because it is going to help you out quite a bit in terms of making sure that you're just not falling behind the curve in these kind of fights, because that can tend to happen. You'll see like with Texel, for example, it can happen. Texel is starting to take progressively more and more damage and becoming more and more of a liability. So it is just something that does happen. We are going to get the once off crit from good old Frieza here, so we will be able to finish off this Goku. Would have preferred to get it in the next round, just to help speed things up a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. Frieza is going to destroy Goku here with a nice big chunky crit of 6 mil, and we are going to be able to move on to the final phase. So this Goku is pretty much follows the same trend as the rest of them. None of them seem to have evasion or anything like that, so there's nothing too crazy from the Gokus. I don't know if there's any other hidden mechanics that I'm just not picking up, but this is what it seems to be at this stage. We're going to use Broly's active skill just so we can increase his damage and get some really big chunky damage in here, which is going to be great. Obviously Broly's active skill is not something you would normally see, but you will see it here, so very, very good. But we should be more than fine. We're going to activate a Whis. The reason being is we have Cell on rotation, and like I said, Cell's really fallen behind the curve probably by now. So 57,000 defense. You can see I'm not even playing around, and I'm literally just activating the additional item. Goku does seem to lose a bit of tankiness once he moves to his int form. Not that he becomes holistically glass cannon or untanky, but he definitely does lose a little bit of tankiness, which allows us to chunk him down a bit faster. You can see there he's taking some decent damage. Obviously Broly is just doing decent damage because of his active skill, although no additional supers, so thanks for that, Broly. Really could have done with like 3 or 4 of those just to really whittle Goku down quickly, but it's not the end of the world. We're more than fine, so not too worried. Cell, obviously we only got 1 orb, but you can see taking 40k or so yeah, if we'd got the 3 orbs he would have taken a lot less, probably closer to 20 or 10k, but he did have 2 items active, so you can see units like Cell starting to take some more damage. Here we've just switched up the order a little bit just in case we get supered beforehand, so that Goku is only supering a int unit. Frieza having 100k more defense than the Golden Frieza pretty much equates to them having the same defense with type disadvantage, so it is something that we just needed to be aware of. Frieza does raise his defense for 1 turn, so having him super in the second slot does protect him a little bit more. The only issue really is he didn't crit, so having these tech units does also technically slow down our damage if we don't get crits, so that is also something that we just have to be wary of. Fortunately though, we have the Brolys for damage, and they should be fine defensively. We have the second Broly's active skill as well, so we should be good to go. So we'll just play it out, and then we'll be able to do enough damage to kill Goku. Not really too concerned about this rotation since we have double Brolys and we have the Frieza. So we should be more than fine defensively. You can see here 327,000, 170k, and we've got the 90% damage reduction from Frieza, so definitely should be fine. I don't think we're going to run into too many issues, but you never know. You never know what's going to happen. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be any gimmick to Goku or anything, so I don't foresee that being an issue. And we're not going to get this. Broly is just not additional super attacking for us. He's additional attacking, but he's not additional supering or critting or anything. So he doesn't care. He's just not interested. So that's great, but it's not too much of an issue. We do have the Broly at the back. He's gonna the active skill active. Yeah, let's say it like that. So he should be dishing out some decent damage here. So not too concerned about anything. Goku's going to be really close to defeat, and then we should be fine next rotation. Like I said, we have the Tech and the Int Frieza, so that rotation is quite strong. Should be more than fine. We'll see how much damage Goku does here. No item active. Broly's about 200k defense, has damage reduction. So yeah, you can see 143k. 143k. I mean, Broly's got 32% damage reduction. He had 200k health. 143k is a lot of damage. So yeah, just be wary that there can be quite a decent chunk of damage out there. But we're going to use Frieza, we're going to use the Dokkan attack, and we should be more than fine. And we'll wrap things up against Goku here. So really not too concerned. We'll wrap everything up. And then yeah, we'll that's pretty much the event done and dusted. A nice event, good addition to the game, I think. And this is the full power category challenge. So there we go. Job sorted. But yeah, thanks guys for watching the video. Let me know down in the comments below how you feel about the new event. Did you enjoy it? Do you like it? Have you tried it yet? Are you struggling with the challenge? What team are you trying to take in? And yeah, pretty much anything else really that you kind of want to ask. But beyond that guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, stay safe, and I will see you guys in the next video. We've obviously completed the full power challenge, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Until then, bye!